Oh. What's up, everybody? It's your girl, La. Welcome back to BlackGirlMarvel. Okay, so we have a special guest today. Okay, the one, the only, Mr. Kayos himself. Go ahead, introduce yourself to everybody.
What's up, everybody? This is your boy Kayos. If you're a friend and fan of BlackGirlMarvel, you probably have heard this voice before on the Wakinda podcast, is this podcast, and the Wakinda BlackNerd cast. Hello, I'm honored to be a guest. It's taken a while, but I'm glad we finally got to do one of your shows. I'm glad to be a guest on your show. You can find me everywhere. Wakanda Podcast is this on Facebook. You can find the YouTube channel, which I still don't have any content up there, but we're coming with the content.
Well, follow anyway because the content is coming.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Team Chaos, and you can find me on Facebook, Kyle J. Campbell.
Yep. All right, so we're going to be talking Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Now, well, you can already see one person's stance. Or hear one person's stance on it. So if you follow me on YouTube, you know that I already have my first two-parter out about The Force Awakens, and I'm just revisiting these films and kind of, because my belief is because they're a couple years apart, sometimes it's better to watch them in succession because you see things connect better than you would say a year later because you're not watching the film all the time, you're not looking at the film all the time. So I wanted to rewatch the films, kind of go through, see what are some redeeming qualities of the trilogy, because let's be honest, as old as the originals are, nothing's going to be as good as the originals because they are the originals. That's just what they are. They hold a nostalgic, very sentimental feel in people's hearts, and you're not going to recreate that or break that or change that. So without further ado, obviously I'm playing devil's advocate, which we kind of discussed earlier, to Kyle, because Kyle, I'm going to call him Kyle all day, but Chaos does not, he feels that Last Jedi does not have any redeeming qualities, and I'm here to say nerds to that. So yes, you haven't heard that in a while, I'm sure. But go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead, start wherever you remember, because he said it's been 5 weeks, right? 5 weeks?
Yeah. It's been about 5 weeks. I watched it in sometime in May. This is middle of July, week before my birthday. We're recording this, and I watched it sometime in May, and then part of the end of May I rewatched it just so I could. It's one of those films, certain films I can get a good grasp on after the first time watching it. And then there's some that just, I know I'm divided and I'm going to really wait and watch that again to really get everything that they were throwing at me before I really come up with an opinion. And this was one of those films.
Okay. All right. So how about this? Because I'm going to repeat things that I'm going to put them out. When I do my separate one for YouTube, I'm going to repeat some things. Okay, so let's get right into let's get into disappointments. Let's hit the disappointments first because I'm pretty sure that's the whole film for you. I'll go for me because my disappointment is maybe a little paragraph, I guess a little bit that I wrote. And let me know if you feel you agree, kind of disagree, which, I mean, they're disappointments, so 9 out of 10 you probably will agree. Watching the film and going from Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, I felt like Last Jedi, there wasn't a lot of backstory for me, right? There's a lot of stuff in the last, I felt like Force Awakens established 4 new characters, right? You give us Rey, Finn, Poe, and Kylo, right? You give us 4 new characters, and they all have similarities to the other four characters from the original film.
We all know who Poe was trying to be. We all knew that was Han Solo.
Come on, we all know as gender swapped as it is, Finn was a little bit of Leia, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Rey, another gender swap, she was Luke, and Kylo's the new Vader. I even have that in my notes. So you shouldn't be too crazy on that. So I liked Force Awakens because it just shot right out of the barrel. It gave us a nostalgic feel so people could feel kind of comfortable watching it and not too separated. I felt like for Last Jedi, to me, that was moments where we should have learned more about everybody, right?
Yeah.
Right.
One of my biggest gripes about this whole trilogy in totality is it's just too uneven. And like you said, The Force Awakens, like I saw that opening day. I took my mom to see that because it comes out on Christmas. I take my mom to see a movie every single Christmas day, and we were both excited about it. Huh?
I said, you hear that, ladies?
Right, like, and that's the thing. That's like our Christmas tradition is we go see a movie on Christmas Day, and she grew up with Star Wars. Hell, there's actually a funny story. And no, The Simpsons didn't do this first. My father and mother were walking out of The Empire Strikes Back, and my father was talking loudly about what happened, the big twist. And if you're listening to this podcast and watching it, you know the big twist. But if you don't, Luke Skywalker is the son of Darth Vader. Spoiler alert. My father said that out loud and spoiled the movie for people.
Shut up. Your dad was like the originals. Oh, God.
He wasn't trying to, but it was just back then, that was the craziest plot twist you had ever seen in the film that you did not see coming. Yeah. So he was talking about it. So my parents, I've grown up in a Star Wars house. Like, Star Wars is one of my original all-time favorite films. You know, when I think back of when I was a child, the movies that I rewatched constantly when I can remember the most, and from what my mom and dad would say, would be Star Wars, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, ironically, which is actually the worst one to watch when you're a child, and E.T. You know, so Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have a whole part of my love for film is based off of them. And coming into The Force Awakens, I was excited because it was new Star Wars. That was my thing. Like, comparing this even to another franchise, The Terminator. Okay. I'm one of the few people, I still kind of see some redeeming qualities in Terminator Salvation because it was something different. It wasn't a Terminator going back in time to kill John Connor again before the Revolution. No, we're smack dab in the Revolution. Let's see what John Connor does, and let's see who he is as a character, because he's had more than enough character development to see who he is. So I was excited for that.
Right.
In The Force Awakens, I was excited because I'm like, okay, what more story is there now to tell? Darth Vader's dead. Luke's old. The galaxy's been saved. What are we doing? Right. And I love the first trailer. I rewatched it. If I was doing videos back then, I would have did a trailer dissection video. We would have did a podcast on that.
Is a stormtrooper, and it's like the hat comes off. He's like,
I mean, as far as trailers go, I gotta say that might be a top 15 trailer.
It's a solid trailer. I'm just laughing because
solid one.
Like I think it's such. I don't think people pay attention to that trailer a lot because it's like that's the trailer that made everybody interested in that movie anyway.
And it had questions in the trailer like, wait. For one, it's a black person in the galaxy. It's not right. It's a black person that's not Billy D. Williams. A black stormtrooper, a stormtrooper that actually is rebelling against being a stormtrooper. Right. This new girl who seems mysterious and cool. Who the hell is this Darth Vader cosplay looking guy that looks badass and has a quasar type saber, lightsaber? Like, this is badass. And then the end of it, you got freaking Han Solo and Chewie. I'm like, I'm in.
You get a glimpse of, don't forget Leia. You get a glimpse of Leia in there.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's freaking out over that. So it's like
it hit me right where it wanted to, right in the middle of the feels.
Yep.
And when I saw The Force Awakens, I thought at the time it played it a little too safe introducing people to the world. Because I'm like, okay, it's Star Wars. Aren't too many IPs that people don't need to really be nudged into. Right. Like, if this is your first Star Wars film in a theater, it's most likely still not your first Star Wars film. So you still kind of know where we're coming from. You know the world. Let's just jump in. I felt it held our hand a little too much, but I still wasn't mad at that because I'm like, this is going to be a new trilogy. This is going to be the new era-defining Star Wars, characters. I'm still really not too mad at that. Right. I liked the fact I'm a fan of J.J. Abrams. I'm not a J.J. Abrams fanboy. I do think he does too much sometimes with the mystery that really doesn't lead anywhere. He loves introducing the question of a mystery and doesn't really love actually answering the mystery.
That's very true.
So I knew that going in, knowing JJ. So I still appreciated the fact that he does write very good, in my opinion, very good, compelling female characters. He was one of the few voices outside of like Joss Whedon that really does put a female voice at the forefront and make a female character the main character, which I like seeing. I like, as a person of color, anything different than a white blonde guy being the lead, I'm actually all for.
Facts.
But leading onto all the questions that he set up, I was intrigued from Force Awakens. And then going into Last Jedi, I'll say this. My opinion of The Last Jedi has somewhat changed of the amazing work that Rian Johnson did on Knives Out. Because I was one of those people, this dude don't need to work in Hollywood anymore because he ruined freaking Star Wars. And after seeing Knives Out, I'm like, you still fucked Star Wars up, but I ain't that mad at you now. But Last Jedi to me is, and ironically, after seeing the whole prequel trilogy, and I saw all those in theater, I didn't think I'd ever say this. Yeah, that's the worst Star Wars film in my opinion.
Really? It's worse than Jar Jar? Like, it's worse? Like,
I'll say this. Jesus, what is her name? Her name to my Kelly Retrans character, Rose. Rose ruining Finn's heroic sacrifice and then awkwardly kissing him out of nowhere is worse than all of Jar Jar's bad, racially stereotypical jargon. When that happened, and that's the thing that gets me about that film. And this thing is, I'm one of those people, certain films, if everybody's telling me I need to see it, okay, I'll say it like this. I've been a film guy since birth. People know me for film. People always say, I want to get your opinion on film. That's why I started podcasting. There are two types of ways people tell me I need to watch a film. They're like, I got to hear what your opinion on this is, Kyle, because this is a movie I think you would like. And there's others, no, you got to see this film. This is the film everybody's seeing. I'm like,
right.
I don't know if I want to see it if everybody's seeing it and everybody loving it so much or hating it so much. I'm always try to be, and if you're a listener of the Wakinda Podcast Network, I do not hate the DC films. I try, ironically, to be in the middle when it comes to looking at films. True. Listening to me on DC, you may not think that, but it is true. And when The Last Jedi came out, it was just universal hatred. And I hadn't seen that at that time. I couldn't get tickets for the opening weekend. And so I tried to completely abstain from all spoilers for the film. And then as the days and eventual weeks start going on, I started getting busy. It was a holiday season. And then it was just universal backlash of, let's start a petition to raise money, to start a whole to read the film over again. And I'm like, damn, people really hating this film that much. And I asked some people who I know saw, I'm like, no spoiler, how's the film? And most of them like, I ain't like it. It just did too much stuff, too crazy. So I didn't see The Last Jedi until it came on Netflix, which was about 7-8 months after it came out. It came out like December. I didn't see it until around July of the next year, after all the hype had died down. So when I first saw it, I'm assuming your listeners have seen the film. That's why they're listening to your reviews on it.
Yeah. Hopefully.
The first 30 seconds when
spoiler alert, folks. If you haven't, I'm sorry. The movie's been out. It's been like, what, 2 years? 2018, I think. 2017, 18, something like that.
Yeah, 17 something, yeah.
Spoilers, guys. Continue.
When Luke jettisons his father's lightsaber over his shoulder, I took a picture of I didn't think I was going to, but I actually still have the picture. I took a picture of my face because I literally, on my phone and took a picture because I'm like, oh, I get it. Like just from the first minute, I'm like, okay, if that's the first minute and you literally built up the entire Force Awakens of finding Luke Skywalker, the last 30 seconds is finding Luke. The second movie takes place immediately after that, which I love when they do that in the film. And she returns his lightsaber, the lightsaber we saw him lose, Anakin's lightsaber. And he jettisons that behind him off a cliff. I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna be one of those movies. And then just through the course of it, I mean, it really felt like they had no. It felt like they were trying to course correct from The Force Awakens when nobody really had any real bad things to say about The Force Awakens, in my opinion. Most I had heard was it maybe was a little too nostalgic, you know.
What do you think? I mean, let's all be honest. Like, Force Awakens was A New Hope, right? Force Awakens was A New Hope with a different title and different characters, but it was A New Hope. Like, you know, that's all it was. And to me, I didn't mind that because you got some really crazy people in the Star Wars fandom, and I felt like this was a gentle guide into a new part of the universe because it was 30 years since the last film, and you know, it was just a nice little let me hold your hand and bring you into this world, and then we'll, because I figure, okay, the first one is going to be this one, and then the next two are going to be like, we about to set y'all on fire with this new stuff, right? And I got some of it, but then I didn't get as much as I have wanted, right? Because I feel like in movies like these, what makes them or breaks them are characters, right? Because anything set in like fucking outer space and universe or anything like that, anything set is fantastical, and people latch onto it quickly. People like it quickly. But if you can't give me a character that I can see myself in or relate to in this world, then it falls flat, right? So you gave us a female lead, which for me is great. You know, I always want my leads to look like me, but that ain't what it is. But if you're gonna give me I'm female, give me a female lead. She was strong. Even after all the stuff that she went through, she was strong and continued to try to find her place in this world, right? But I think what happens is you try to, and they did this a lot in Rise of Skywalker. They didn't really too much do it. Kind of in this movie, but it happened way more in Rise of Skywalker. I feel like these movies, the disservice that they did was adding too many characters.
I agree. To me, that's what got me. I mean, granted, there is no specific way that you are required to make a film and a film trilogy. But, okay, I'll say it like this. We're nerds. We have a certain degree of trepidation when it comes to certain tropes that they throw out in films, because we watch more of these types of films than anybody else, especially when it comes to niche quote unquote films. Superhero films up until the last decade and a half, well, 2 decades counting Spider-Man and X-Men, weren't the popular thing to watch. You know, we got one superhero film every 3-4 years, and what we got is what we got. They just got it, so we buy the toys. You know, now they actually get competent filmmakers. They actually delve into the themes of the characters, to the psychology of the characters, to the motivation of the characters, outside of just having Batman drive a car, Superman on screen, and Spider-Man swinging through New York City. You know, we actually really get to know the characters. And when it comes to, honestly, the most valuable American intellectual property and entertainment, when Star Wars, we are the ones that are buying the novels. We're the ones buying the comic books. You know, we're the ones going to Comic-Con. And we know that we're not the ones they're making this movie for. They're making this movie for John Smith, who kind of knows who Luke Skywalker is. He knows he does the Darth Vader voice.
Or even for this new generation that doesn't even know what Star Wars is. Like I honestly feel like this new trilogy ain't for us.
I completely agree.
Right? So me talking about it and analyzing all that kind of stuff, it's just fun for me to do. Right? But I feel like that with all the trilogies. I feel like the first 3 was like for our parents, and it just happened to be for us because they loved it so much that they made us kind of love it and watch it and dig it. That other trilogy, like that prequel trilogy,
that was George Lucas
was for the new kids. That was for the kids that's behind it. That's for the kid that turned 20 this year. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that was for them. You know what I mean?
He was trying to make more money off of toys. That's what really was.
You know what I'm saying?
He owns the toy rights, so he gets 100% of the toy profit. So how can I make myself even more money? Let me make the movie a giant toy commercial.
And then I feel like this trilogy is for those kids that turn 20. That's for their kids. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and that's the thing that gets me. I'm like, okay, you don't have to make this trilogy the way that quote unquote you're told to make it. You don't have to. If you're going to come up with something completely brand new, which to me actually was the hard part, because I'm like, you literally have 40 years of stuff that people have written, that people have bought multiple times telling you they love. You could easily just adapt something from the expanded canon. But you want to come up with a brand new story, which really, with everything that's been done, exactly, you're really not coming up with nothing new because everything that can be done in Star Wars has already been done, you know, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s with the expanded universe for the novels and the comics. But I'm like, you come up with a brand new story, brand new characters. All right, that's cool. I'll even start this off with a positive. One of the things I think they got really right in this series, more than what they did in the past 2 trilogies, was the casting.
Yeah.
You have Daisy Ridley, who I think honestly doesn't get enough roles right now, because really the only thing I've really seen her in is Murder on the Orient Express and Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
I personally
think a movie that was supposed to come out with Tom Holland, but they have that. Who knows? That from I don't know what they were doing with that movie.
Tom Holland's gonna have my gray hair when that film finally comes out.
He's gonna and I'm pretty sure it'll still come out before New Mutants. So just saying.
I think honestly, and I still go back on this, I think she should have been. I know she was in the running for, but I think she should have been the new Lara Croft. I think and I think Alicia Vikander is a good. I think Alicia Vikander is a very good actor. But I think had you put the head of the new Star Wars film as that probably would have got more eyes to it. I probably would have saw it, and then that would have let Hollywood and everybody know, okay, this is the new It Girl. Not only is she the new girl for Star Wars, she's the new female superhero that you got to take your daughter to go see. You have 2 movies to take her to see now.
No, and this is no slight to Alicia, because honestly, and I'm gonna be so real. Maybe this will be a video that I'll watch when I learn how to do like the video screen thing, because I'm still learning how to do that and I'll do that. I haven't seen her Tomb Raider. Right, I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen clips. Like I've seen her like running through like a market or on boats or something like that, chasing after. And I realized that she wasn't like Angelina's Lara Croft, because Angelina's was like more campy. Like anything back in the early 2090s is very campy, but it's still one of my favorite roles of Angelina. But I mean, like, different in the sense that like Angelina's was more like kind of like, even though she was like this beautiful woman, she was more like gritty, kind of like I'll fight, I'll get in. Alicia's isn't like that. I think this was more like an origin story. This was hers was more like because, mind you, again, I didn't see it all the way through. I seen bits and pieces, but from what I've seen, it seemed like Alicia's Lara Croft was more like, they were like, okay, let's start this. Let's do how these superhero movies been doing and give y'all like a true origin on this character, which is something they didn't really do in Angelina's, because they were coming right off a video game type of thing, and they figured everybody know who Lara
That's
Croft
ironically what I think the first 2 Tomb Raider films did right, and this one did wrong. Agreeing with you, because the thing is, the Tomb Raider film was basically the Tomb Raider video game from a couple years ago, live action, which was rebooting the series. I mean, she literally had on the same attire, went through some of the same set pieces. And to me, I'm like, I just played the game. The game is always going to be better than the film because you have more time to do everything, and it's more immersive. It's me controlling the character. But I'm like, if I've done it in the game, I don't want to see it in the film. Like I want to see something different between.
Right.
That's why certain comic book films are better than movies, and some movies are not as good as comic book film. But I think Daisy should have got that. But John Boyega.
That'd be a dope. That would have been a dope casting, though. I just wanted to say that.
To me, I actually tweeted that when I first heard that, because when I heard, I'm like, oh yeah, she can be Tomb Raider. I'm like, yeah, she's young. Yep. I'm like, she could hold this franchise for a couple years. I'm like, that makes sense. When I heard Alicia Vikander's in, I'm like, well, she's got an Oscar, so that obviously makes it her film now.
Yep.
John Boyega. I've been a fan of John Boyega since Attack on the Block. Attack the Block.
Yeah.
I love that film. When I first saw that film, I had heard about it.
That film is so goofy. I watched that film.
I had no idea what I was in for. I had heard good things about it. I think this is taking it back to G4, Attack of the Show. I think they gave a review on it. And I'm like, yeah, that's my Bible right there. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to check this film out. And I finally saw like a year or two later, and I'm like, yo, this movie's dope. And then I'm watching the kids, and I'm like, okay, yeah, these guys got a little future.
Honestly, I saw Attack the Block after I saw Star Wars, The Force Awakens, right? Because I didn't know who John Boyega was. I was recommended because I like when people, because I do this to people sometimes, but then I kind of stopped because people weren't giving me my movies back, so we don't play. But I used to do this thing where I used to like trade movies with people. So like, if I give you a set, you give me a set, like what you think I would like,
right?
Or you come over and like look at my collection, get a few. I do the same to you when I come pick up my movies. But then all of a sudden, people was forgetting where my movies was, or they were saying that they gave them back and they didn't give them. And I'm just like, you know what? We no longer do this.
I'm petty enough to still have a friend who's still a good friend of mine who still has never returned my Tropic Thunder DVD, and I love Tropic Thunder.
That's one of mine too. I got that in my collection.
Oscar Isaacs. Oscar Isaacs is. I say he's one of the, I'm not gonna say he's underrated, but I'm like, he's one of the guys that he before Star Wars, he was just right there for being the next big guy. I'm like, the Inside Llewellyn Davis, Drive. There's so many more movies I could list. The guy, he is a complete chameleon and just completely immerses himself in any role.
He's super talented though. Like, don't get me wrong, like what he was given for Poe, I felt like he achieved. Now,
and I think he did. I think he elevated the material. That's the thing, especially in The Force Awakens. I think they just gave, okay, he's gonna be our quote unquote Han Solo character. We're gonna write him cool and give him the cool dialogue. And I think he looked at it like, I can do better than this, and he just put himself into that role, which is what led to him getting an expanded role, from what I've heard in the latter two films.
Which shows, because again, like I said, I'm a big proponent. I'm a big person, literally, figuratively, but I'm a big proponent on like character development, right? Character drive, right? Like I write like fan fiction and things like that. So like sometimes I don't finish them for years because I'm so heavy into, okay, my character started here. Now we're in the middle and they're here. Where do I take them from here? Like, how can they grow? Right? So it's in parts. And I feel like that's where the trilogy, this new trilogy, to me, that's the only like, okay, of course there's some like history stuff that they put in like from the originals that like people are like, what? Like But I feel like if you could have backed up any of those like quote unquote fails with really good character development, right? Because you don't want to see it coming, but you kind of do at the same time and want to believe that this could happen. Like, because like for me, you kind of built up Finn's character in one, right? To be, I'll say this, throughout all three films, Finn might have the best character development, right? And I still feel like his development is lacking because right? I feel like he, out of everybody, he might have the best character development, but is lacking because he starts off as this like very kind of like whiny, afraid, lustful young boy, which he's a stormtrooper that got conditioned as a child. He don't know nothing, so you got to give him like a pass for that. In Last Jedi, finally becomes he finally becomes who he said he was in the first one. Like, he finally becomes a part of this rebellion. He finally earns that rebel scum that Phasma called him. I put that in my notes, by the way. He finally earns that, right? He finally earns that by not running away, by being like, you know what? She can take care of herself. Let me take care of this part for her, right?
To me, I always looked at The Force Awakens more Finn's film than Rey's.
If we gonna call a spade,
because I'm like, his character for one is the most interesting. Rey, to me, that's the one thing. That's why I have a problem with Rey's character, is because even in our introduction to her, we're still not given enough information to care about her. You know what I mean? Like the original part. I mean, the original film in this trilogy, Force Awakens, it starts off with Finn as a character seeing murder in front of him and finally saying, no, this isn't who I am as a character, and running away. If it's not for Finn running away, the plot of the film does not take off. He is the real linchpin. He is the Leia of the film. It's because of him that all the events start falling into place. If you look at A New Hope, if Leia
didn't send that message,
doesn't send that message to Obi-Wan, Luke is not brought into it. No. But the thing is, you could still see Luke not being a part of that and Obi-Wan still getting that message. If Finn does not escape and then get to find BB-8 and then go to Rey, the events don't go in the fact, you know, they don't transpire. So I always look at it more as Finn's film, and that's what gets me about Finn. You could kind of see where his arc was going, and then it just kind of stalled. That's what gets me about The Last Jedi.
Because they focus so much on, and I can be honest, like, they focus so much on this weird relationship between Kylo and Rey. Right?
Man,
it was like they were like, you know what, we didn't get a lot of interaction between like Luke and Vader, so what we gonna do in ours, we gonna make it and I feel like if Rey was a man, they wouldn't have done that.
I agree.
Right? I feel like if Rey was a man or if Kylo was a woman, they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have made this connection, and you would have still build on these character developments.
And that's ironically what gets me, because
I feel like because it was a woman, and you was hearing people like, because like, okay, because some stuff in that movie to me was like unnecessary that you needed to have. Like, okay, Snoke bridged their minds, right? Which that's still that's in my thing as like did he what? Because he led to his own downfall. But anyway, like, you dumb for doing it. You killed yourself by bridging their minds. But anyway, he bridged their minds, so they have this connection, which they end up retconning that in Rise of Skywalker. But
exactly,
I won't talk about that. I mean, I have it in my notes, talk about it later, but they retcon that. But they're connected, and they can kind of see each other. They can kind of do this thing. They can kind of
force FaceTime.
Exactly, they can't do this thing. But I mean, but if we want to call it spade a spade, Luke did the same thing in the movie with Leia. But so it's possible.
That's something that got me, is that you could tell, especially in The Force Awakens, and from the notes that JJ had for The Last Jedi, even though he left, Ryan to do his own film, there were certain things, beats that he did have to have in there. It shows that JJ is more influenced by the original trilogy than he clearly says that he is about the middle. He's more influenced by the prequel trilogy than he is the original trilogy.
Okay.
Because if you're basing your love and writing a Star Wars film off of the original trilogy, the Force is very subtle. It is there, but it almost feels like something that you yourself could have in you. If you studied and yada, 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 you could kind of guide this. You could compel somebody to do something with their will.
Yeah.
With the prequel trilogy, you got the Force letting you jump around like Spider-Man with a lightsaber, stopping starships with your hand. that ain't what we originally saw. That was George Lucas retconning and trying to make even more of the Force. And I'm not even going to mention midichlorians.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to this trilogy, it's subtle in the beginning, but then when you look,
it's a little bit of both, but then it gets ramped up easy. Like it's a little.
The Last Jedi, Rey she's holding up rocks and shit out of nowhere. Like that's the thing. It gets me. Like her character went from it seems like, and if anybody plays the video game, you'll get this. It seems like she went from being a day one noob to being a level 100 within a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
And it
but
just
here's
completely
the thing, though.
for me.
But here's the thing about these movies that like this is another thing that, and I didn't put these in my notes, and I might have to add them. But this is another because you talking about it sparks things, huh?
I do that. I do that.
You know, is that that just reminded me of the quote where they're like, you know, we're the spark that lights the flame for the like that just made me think of that. But stop it.
What did I like about this fucking trilogy?
But that kind of reminds me of like I lost my point because I went back and forth with that. But,
it does that to you.
Because I was going back and forth. But I get it because like she barely got training, right? But for me, the reason why I could kind of like suspend belief on that is because the only reason I could suspend belief on that is because we see in the original film how quick she is to adapt. Right?
Yeah.
No. Let me finish. You already like, but like, let me finish. We see in the first film how quick she is to adapt. We see that like she pays attention to like what's around her, what people say to her. And because she's already kind of a fangirl, because like I put in my notes that Rey, she's essentially us, right? Mm-hmm. Because she's a fangirl of 30 years ago, which is what we are, right? Mm-hmm. She was like, oh, you're Han Solo? Like she's heard of all these people, but because they did help the galaxy and nobody is hurting and rumbling, it's now like it's like a distant past now. It's kind of like Logan, where Logan sees that they have X-Men comics and he like, this ain't really happening like but all right, you know what I mean? Because it's so far removed. So she already believes, right? She already has a belief. And I've said this in my first video on YouTube, that the Force, a bit of it seems to activate on belief. And if you go to Rogue One, the guy pretty much like the I can't remember his name, but the guy the blind guy who has the Force, that's essentially
the Force is with me,
The Force is with me. It's a faith and it's a belief. So she already has the belief. We already know she has the power within her. Not to mention, she took the sacred text from him. Right? She took the sacred text from him. But this is what I want to say. The thing that kills me about these movies is I don't know the time frame. I don't know.
It feels like it happens over like summer vacation,
right?
Like
which is
everything
why
just
I think
just
a lot of
goes
people
too close together.
Which is what my point was to you, being like, all of a sudden she can like lift rocks and do all these type of things, but it's like, what's the time frame in between?
They didn't do a good job.
In between her being with Luke, the little bit of training that she got, how much of these books did she read? Not only that, we know that she learns when she's in trouble, because when Kylo read her mind in Force Awakens, it triggered something in her to make her be able to do the same to him, that made her be able to control a stormtrooper. So there's no telling when Snoke had her, what she picked up from him.
That's my only thing.
To lift rocks at the end. You see what I'm saying?
With a film, it's usually show don't tell with the visual media, but you still have to let your audience keep up with you, and that's one of my problems with her character. She was just, and I'm not gonna call her Mary Sue.
No, okay, I appreciate that people do, and I'm just like, she really wasn't. But continue.
She's close, and my problem is that she was just too good at everything to where it almost made it you didn't need any other characters.
Well, and I say that as she's Anakin.
I say that as, okay, so if you needed somebody, Luke was a good pilot, but Han was obviously a way better pilot. Mm-hmm. Luke was Force sensitive, but he wasn't as good as Anakin when it came to being as powerful in the Force and using his Force abilities. When it came to Rey, she literally just instantly knows how to pilot the Millennium Falcon, which annoyed me because I'm like, okay, we never even saw that you knew how to pilot anything, and now you're the one that's driving the Falcon. Then at the end of Force Awakens, where Finn actually takes the lightsaber and attempts to duel Kylo, that to me was one of the better concepts because you would never seen a non-Jedi pick up a lightsaber and try to battle a Jedi. Granted, he was getting ready to die, but it was at least something you hadn't seen that then introduced questions like, okay, so maybe even if he's not quote unquote Force sensitive, he could still do something with the lightsaber, which was something we hadn't seen. And then when you go to The Last Jedi, Rey just becomes, I'm not gonna say instantly more powerful, but it's like she's doing things we never saw that we never even knew were possible. And I'm like, it's your job to at least let me know that. Like, had you just had Iron Man in that first cave creating that first suit, and then he comes up with a nanotech armor, I'm gonna say, wait, there's something in between. I get
that. Fill in the gaps. You wanted them to fill in the gap, but I feel like they kind of did, but they just didn't do it good enough, right? I just feel like they kind of did because, like I said, like the points that I hit, like they showed you that that she tinkers with all type of. They showed her tinkering in the beginning of Force Awakens. So suspend your belief and realize that she tinkers with everything because that's what she does, because that's how she gets money. So it's possible that she's tinkered with some type of because she knew the parts of the Millennium Falcon. Like she knew because when she went underneath, she knew how to fix some parts or at least rig it enough to. So if you know the parts, 9 times out of 10, you would kind of know how to fly something or get something off the air because not only is she riding a machine, but she salvages parts. But I get what you're saying, right? But I feel like they do, but they just. They give you a little salt and then be like, figure the rest out for yourself without giving you more meat.
You had great characters, and that's the thing. You don't have to have one-dimensional characters, but you don't have to have each one of your characters do everything. Like you could have had Finn have more of a leader role or more of a like I gotta find myself or more like I don't have self-confidence. You could have Rey I know I have the Force in me, but I don't know what to do with it, kind of like Luke in Empire Strikes Back. That you could have had Finn being, I'm going to win no matter what, but I got to learn how to be with my team and I got to learn how to act, a part of, a unit instead of just always being on my own, which they all had a little bit of, but it wasn't, none of them had a defining character. I'll say that. Like in the original trilogy, they were more defined characters. Han had an arc of being a selfish jerk who didn't care about anybody, who came to wanted to be a part of a family, and he came to fall in love with Leia. Luke, I don't know who I am in this universe. I feel something that's calling me. Then I find the Force. Then I find out Vader is my father. Then I find out I have that evil in me, but I don't want it. Leia, they really didn't do that great with her in the end. But, who am I? I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm supposed to lead my people.
For me, Leia's journey, she's always known who she was, right? She might not have known her biological roots. Like she might not have known that like, this is my brother that I kissed on the lips that we all gonna forget about. We're not gonna think about the fact that she, that she has been Force sensitive since the beginning. And it's not until The Last Jedi that we actually see her, not even that Rise of Skywalker that we actually see
Poppins, man.
That we see the thing. You know what I mean? It's
I got ready to turn the movie off when that happened too.
I actually like that part. I didn't mind that part because
it was just the execution of it. The fact that it had never even been hinted at in the films, in the expanded universe, yes. But if you're just watching films, she's his sister, but you're never told anything about her having anything with the Force. And then out of the blue,
you're not told, but it's
just the way they did it too. She's dead, and then
there's
eyes open, Force gets me back in there, and then she just floats.
I don't think she was dead though. Let's just be honest. She wasn't dead because she was in a
healing coma.
She wasn't. She was. I don't think she was in a coma even out, and it's possible that she was in a coma, and then the Force kind of like brought her, and she just brought herself back in with the Force because she was out of it when they end up bringing her back in.
You know what that was for me? That was the Mandarin from Iron Man 3.
I love it.
The Mandarin, you either hate it or you love it.
That's very true.
I know a lot of people who hated that Iron Man Mandarin Trist in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who did too.
And then I'm one of the ones, I'm like, I get what you're going for. It's this huge moment. You're finally
sometimes
Princess Leia be Force sensitive. But the way they executed it to me was just, I laughed.
Execution is like trash. I get it.
I face palmed with it. I'm like, that's how you finally doing Leia? That? Then Last Jedi, I'll even say something positive.
Uh-oh.
The Luke Kylo battle was absolutely amazing for me. I honestly did have goosebumps when Kylo was ready to bust in.
I knew it wasn't him.
They got me. I didn't pay attention to it until the end.
I knew it wasn't him, right? This is how I knew it wasn't him. And because I was watching the thing and I was like, that ain't him. Because when they both do their flashback of like their events of what happened to like turn Ben/Kylo, because I think he's bipolar or he has DID, either one. Like
that and the Knights of Ren. I would write fan fiction on that.
I think because even in my notes, even in the first version, like even in The Force Awakens, I talk about how he has dual personalities, and I feel like he has dissociative identity disorder, and I feel like there are times when Ben is trying to fight to the surface, and then there's times when Kylo is trying to fight to the surface. Like I really believe that in his character.
That would have made him a.
People love to say that he has tantrums and stuff like that, but I really believe he has DID.
And Adam Driver did a good job with it because that's the thing. I never looked at it as a tantrum. I looked at him like, there's something in you that's trying to get out.
Oh, that's what you see what I'm saying?
I got that.
I really do feel like it's like dual personalities. Like I felt like he was fighting between these two sides of himself, very similar to Anakin, but Anakin's because he didn't have a lot of love in his life to begin with, there wasn't much for him to cling on, which Kylo had more love in his life. So Ben had more to cling on to, right? And
that's why I wanted more of Kylo, because he had that juxtaposition to his grandfather. He was brought up in love.
Okay, but I got this in my notes and I'll put this in my YouTube, but my whole thing was, so ain't nobody gonna tell Kylo, so nobody told Kylo his history. That's what I mean by character development within this film, right? Now, it's because Snoke talks shit about, oh, you're gonna pick up where Vader left off. So nobody told Ben that his grandfather switched sides.
Yeah, that gets
he's the one that like killed Palpatine. Like nobody told him that. Like if you're gonna pick up, you're gonna save the universe. He did in the end, but still.
And that's the thing. Like you're having you're training him to be a Jedi, which means he's going to look upon his past, and you're training him to fight the next version of the Sith. Mm-hmm. How can you properly train him if not letting him know what is come before him?
Yeah, my question is, did they? Right? Because we don't have that background. We have 30 years of these people living this life. I think Rey is like 18 in Force Awakens, which means everybody else might be between the brackets of, I'm gonna say 18 to 25. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like a bit. So all four.
Oscar being 25 is really nice.
Okay, let's say 30. But let's just say like these four characters are in the brackets between being 18 to 30, and we don't have. Don't get me wrong. I like Poe. I don't really need too much backstory on him, right? Well, I don't need too much backstory on him, right? I get it. He's a freedom fighter. That's pretty much all I need. I don't need to know.
I was good. I'm like, I get it. You're cool. I don't need Han character. I'm all right with
that. Then you gave me some background. You showed me that they could, because I didn't really know about stormtroopers, that they conditioned them as children. And then, because to me, you made him so unique, right? This stormtrooper that fought the conditioning, right? Mm-hmm. Right? So, because to me, you fought the conditioning because you're force sensitive. Mm-hmm. Right? Something in you snapped you out of it. Then they ruined that by making the black girl in Rise of Skywalker a former stormtrooper that fought her conditioning.
That's when they did that. I'm watching. I'm like, That's a mistake. He should have been the only
one.
Like he
the
should have
only
been the
one
first.
in a long time. Like the only one. He should have been the first. So you telling me that it was somebody before him? So what makes Finn special now? Nothing.
And to me, that was actually like kind of like a bleed over from The Last Jedi. One of my big takeaways from The Last Jedi was, and I guess really the movie really kind of said it, is nobody's really that special.
Nope.
The Force is everybody.
Another one. The Force will pick up another person to pick up where off.
Which I get why you're saying it, to where it's like, okay, the Force is not just in this one family. It's not just in the Skywalker lineage, and they're the only ones that can, have the Force and be Jedis. That I get. But then making it so just common depletes it. It makes it to where, okay, well, then why do I care about this character? Because there could be another character that could come right after, which is one of my problems with The Last Jedi. And then that part with Finn, like you set him up. Like I said, I've seen so many movies that, if I see a trope and I see like a storyline coming a mile away, I might be disinterested, but that still doesn't mean you cannot get me to that journey with a well-written three-dimensional character. Right. And they started Finn out with that arc, right, and then they completely dropped it by The Last Jedi because it's like, okay, we're at the finish line. And I think one of the problems was they kept saying this new trilogy. You honestly could have done 5 films with these characters and spread these storylines out to where it gave them more emotional development, more.
It made us care more, right?
Exactly. Like, honestly, right? I wanted to care about Kylo turning over and becoming good. He did the worst thing you could do. He killed Han freaking Solo. I wanted to see this kid's head chopped off. So therefore, if that's not where you're going with the character and you're actually leading him to a redemption arc, I want to care about who the person he becomes.
There needed to be, I feel like there needed to be a more emotional component to Kylo/Ben, right?
The best stuff he did was the Last Sky. The best stuff he did in the whole trilogy was the Last Skywalker with Harrison Ford. That second scene that they ever had together where he's talking to him, I got emotional because I'm like, I've known Han Solo my whole life. You've known him because he's your father. You killed him and you really didn't want to. I want to see more of that.
Or because I feel like, because I do feel like don't get me wrong, I know I'm talking like mad stuff about this movie because my whole thing, I told you from the beginning, like if there are going to be points that were made that are accurate, I was not going to shy away from them. I was not going to be like, well, no, you're wrong, and this is why. If you make good points, you make valid points, right? So, because for me, because like that's what I'm saying, like with Kylo, which I feel like he has the dissociative identity disorder. If they would have leaned into that a little bit more for him in The Last Jedi, it would have. Because I'm gonna tell you this right now. As much as I did enjoy the cinematic value of Rise of Skywalker, that movie let me down in a lot of ways.
Having him turn good on the power of love, to me, was a disservice to that character.
Me personally, I didn't mind that because, in all honesty, I wrote in these notes that I have for The Last Jedi that it seems like Kylo was searching for something throughout this whole film, right?
Yes.
I feel like he was searching for a father. He killed his, right? Yes. But if you think about it, how Luke probably trained him since he was an itty bitty thing, or been around him since he probably looked up to his uncle as though he was his father. So not only did
his father.
I'm going to agree with that as well. I think he was as good as he could be, and Kylo did love him, but I do feel like he might have had that father spot for Luke, because in their final battle, the vitriol on his face of wanting them to unleash every bazooka cannon on him, right? Because he thought it would absolve him, like, I'm better than you. Like, you only do that with somebody that you love so much, right? Like, because essentially, because I have this in my notes as well. Whose story do you believe? Right? Because your stories were essentially the same story.
Yep.
They were essentially the same story, but Luke's had fear in his face, and Ben's had like anger and malice in his. So who is telling the truth?
And it seems like to me, like, okay, let's be 100% candid. George Lucas lucked into a lot with Star Wars. He came up with a good idea that was, yes, stolen from spaghetti westerns and stolen from Flash Gordon.
What's not stolen, but continue.
That he then repurposed into his own original story, a Western space opera. Hit like gangbusters. In the second film, he comes up with the amazing idea of connecting the villain to the hero in a way you'd never seen before in a film.
Yep.
But then you add in the fact that Leia is his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Had you not done that, you still could have had a Luke, Leia, Han love triangle,
which they were kind of doing. Which they were like, let's do this in The Force Awakens, but then you kept dropping so many characters into this triangle that it became like.
And I think that's what was the disservice, having Rey and Kylo having that whatever they had. I mean, they didn't have chemistry. Whatever it was, it wasn't chemistry.
That
no, it wasn't that.
Honestly, this is what really killed me. And this is why sometimes I feel like only women should write for women and only men should write for men. Or if you are a woman and vice versa and you want to write for the opposite sex, you have to have a man or a woman next to you to filter some stuff through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this man has tortured me. This man has killed somebody that could have been like a father figure to me.
Mm-hmm.
This man has hunted me throughout the galaxy, tormented me, told me I'm nothing. My parents is nothing.
But he still wants me.
But you gonna kiss him at the end when he finally chooses good for the first time in his life? I honestly, Rise of Skywalker, if nobody knows that we're talking Rise of Skywalker. But that part when they kissed, I was like, my boy Finn didn't even get his kiss, bro. Like,
and the thing is, I had heard of. I hadn't seen from the last two Star Wars films. I didn't technically avoid Last Jedi. I actively avoided Rise of Skywalker because I knew it was just going to be.
It's Beauty and the Beast all over again.
Stockholm syndrome. You know, so when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I get what they mean when they say there was something that was really awkward and they had no chemistry. Like that kiss had no passion. And nothing against Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver. They did the best they could.
But wasn't a build-up. That wasn't a build-up. As the characters,
I did not want to see them together.
But y'all was fighting to the death not 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that gets me, one of the biggest theories going into the last Skywalker was that they were going to switch. That Kylo was going to have his redemption arc and become a Jedi, and Rey, because we still didn't know who the hell she really was, and had too many questions about her past, she was going to the Sith. And I'm like, that to me, a lot of people guessed it ahead of time, but it kind of would have been better because it would have been something you hadn't seen. When you get to the same point that the original trilogy did, when you have Palpatine in the background, and you have Rey, who kind of has a little evil in her, but no, she's not really evil, and then you have Kylo, who was evil, and now it's good, and it's both of y'all versus Palpatine. I've seen that before, and I've seen it better. Granted, it didn't have the special effects, but it had more emotional weight. Seeing Kylo sacrifice himself and seeing Rey kill Palpatine, it didn't have the same weight as seeing Darth Vader turn as Palpatine is killing Luke and then throwing Palpatine through that hole. Like, but that had emotional weight.
But if they would have flipped it, it would have been it honestly would have been the same thing. It would have been Kylo who was Vader taking out Palpatine. It would have been the same trope that they did already.
Probably.
If they would have did, I just could have done without the kiss, because I get it. She wanted to bring him back. Like she wanted to do I feel like she wanted to do a service to Han, right? Because Han's last dying at anything was trying to bring his son back, right? And so at the end of the day, she did Han a service by bringing him back. She did Leia a service by bringing him back. But I feel like everything that Kylo wanted, Rey had, right?
Yeah.
She got Luke's respect in a way, even though he still kind of was afraid of her. But she was the catalyst that made him even tap into the Force, and however many years he stopped using the Force.
I mean, as far as we've seen on camera, she got more hugs out of Leia than he ever did.
You know what I mean? She got hugged.
Even though Chewie should have got that damn hug instead of her.
Well, I feel kind of twofold about that because.
Oh, he died. The guy you just met. He's my husband for 40 years.
Not even
oh,
that.
That's his best friend of 50 years.
It's not even
hey, Chewie, give me a hug.
It's not even the way I was looking at it. The Force connects people in certain ways, and I feel like even though
it just hit wrong to me though. In the theater,
I get it. No,
in the theater, people were like, "What the fuck? You ain't gonna hug Chewie?" like that's his boy.
I straight get it, but I feel like she was the first person to come off the ship, woman to woman. You felt it. I know you felt it. We both kind of felt it. Like I get it. I do get where everybody's coming from.
It's that Chewie thing again. Like they always gotta screw my dog.
Also, I think Chewie was just like, everybody leave me alone. Too. Like
there's that
Chewie
too. There's that
like
too.
Everybody, my best friend died. Everybody leave me alone. But
and that's the thing that got me when he stabs him, it hit me. But then when I hear Chewie yell out,
yeah,
I'm like, damn, man, I mean, literally, like he's known him longer than anybody. That's his.
But I love Chewie though because
galaxy.
Chewie was with the smoke. Because the moment he stabbed him, and she's like,
he started.
No, he was like, he was like, he was with it. He was like, I don't what we do. He was like, I'm gonna run up everything. He running, he going up everything.
He ain't giving shit, man. He was like,
I was like, let's go, Chewie. Kill my best friend. We shutting this down. Like, so I agree.
The thing that gets me in totality about this franchise, the second trilogy. Third trilogy.
We can't wrap it up. I think we've been doing this for like 2 hours, so we can't wrap it up.
But it's just like it introduced a lot of good questions, but it seemed like they just rushed to get to that third film.
They could have gave me one more film.
And I think that would have, and the thing is, to me, that would have been fine. Like you don't have to just have it in 3 films. Look, and the thing that gets me is I don't know how Disney was so short-sighted in this. I'm like, you own Marvel. You're letting their story go through multiple films through 10 years. You're literally, some of the films don't even have to have anything in them. If you take out the scene between Ant-Man and Falcon in the Ant-Man film, there literally is nothing connecting that to the greater MCU.
Think about Black Panther.
There's nothing connecting that into the greater MCU.
If you don't see Bucky at the end of Black Panther, and I'm gonna say maybe Claw, maybe, because nobody really remembered Everett Ross. Let's just call this a spade. Nobody. They were just like, okay, he's an official. When nobody. Really
and then Andy Serkis is like, maybe he looks familiar, but maybe I've seen another character like that in another film.
But if you would have removed Bucky from the end of that, that's a standalone film.
And the thing is, you let the audiences know they're on this journey ahead of time where, okay, you let us know in 2014, we're ending in 2018 in Infinity War. You know, you're letting us know where we're getting to. It's like, okay, we're along for the ride. It's Star Wars. It was doing this in film form before Marvel was. So you didn't just have to say we're getting 3 films. You could have said it could have been a 5-film whatever the hell it is, quadrilogy or whatever. You could have had that, and we would have been fine because we know, okay.
You would have took your time.
You could have took your time, but that's the thing that gets me. Like, nobody was forcing you. You own Star Wars outright. You can do whatever the hell you want with the characters. So you don't have to only do 3 films. You could have let it draw out.
They needed to.
It would have been better.
Like sometimes they need to blend, right? And I feel like when you're going to do trilogies or quadrilogies, whatever you want to call it, however long you're going to do it, you need somebody at the helm, right? I feel like you need a Kevin Feige type presence.
That's why it's a verb now. Without that linchpin guy.
Listen, I use Kevin Feige for all type of things. Title on my sex tape. I got it. But you need a Kevin Feige type presence. I'm here as like a final decision type person. I'm here to lead and to see how does this blend, how does this go, because I really feel like as great as Robert Downey Jr. is as Iron Man, as great as Jon Favreau was as the director of that film, even as playing Happy, because I like Jon Favreau as an actor as well as I do as a director.
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't have been Nathan, and I say Nathan for nothing. It wouldn't have been Nathan without Sir Kevin Feige. I knighted him myself as if I am Iron Man.
Iron Man, that.
Sir Kevin Feige, because you need somebody that has a vision. I can write all day. I can give you great lines and great character development, all this stuff. But if you don't have somebody with a vision to be able to take what I write and to like lay it down, my whole thing is this: people steal from people all the time. My voiceover teacher has told me that you steal from the greats, right? You take from the greats, even acting.
You have Marvel right there, and you don't even look at what they're doing.
Why not just take somebody's blueprint?
And the thing that gets me is, by that time, you had already had, and I'm not going to beat this dead horse, you'd already had DC shit the bed. You've already had, by that time, the original, the Dracula Untold film make a thud. You'd already had another series fall flat on their face, trying to copy what you're doing correctly in Marvel by the time you got to The Force Awakens. So you already know the blueprint that you are already laying out in another film series that you own is the way to go. You then handcuff yourself by saying we're only doing 3 films, and therefore you completely stumble over yourself because you put more than 3 films worth of material introduced in your first film, and then honestly, because you had no direction and Kathleen Kennedy does not know what the hell she's doing with Lucasfilms, I honestly cannot imagine having a multi-billion-dollar film series, giving one film to a guy to introduce it, then having another person come in, and then have the guy that was in the first one come back for the third one to tie it all up. That does not work. When JJ said he couldn't do The Last Jedi,
should have waited.
You postpone the damn. You're gonna make $1 billion
anyway.
You know you're gonna make $1 billion,
and that's what I don't like about.
You already made $1 billion off of. I think Black Panther had been out by that time. So you took a B-list character that was really only big to a certain demographic worth of people, and already made $1 billion with it. You already know Star Wars is gonna come back making $1 billion. So you know what? We'll chill. Your worst film up to that point in The Last Jedi was the worst money-making film was Rogue One, and that made $850 million.
Right. And
so
everybody
already know a baseline number film is going to make at least $1 billion. Yeah, we can postpone this a year. Let JJ go do his dream project with Star Trek, come back and completely cap this shit off to make another $1 billion in that third film. It to me was just when they did that, that was them completely.
I feel like I really feel like these corporations, and I'm gonna take Marvel out of it, but I'm gonna say Disney, even though Marvel is a part of it because Disney got everything now. And as much as I love Disney and I hope to work for them one day, I'm just being honest. I do feel like sometimes, and they might not purposely try to do this, but I think sometimes they think their fan base is stupid.
I agree.
Without any type of knowledge or understanding, because I feel like I'm a person who like to go to the movies, right? Every year on my birthday, I take myself to multiple movies in the morning. I get up super early and I go to the movies and I see a movie back to back. I see however many movies I can see by the time that $5 run out. You hear me?
That just depressed me that this is the first year I can't do that, but go on.
It might be the first year I can't do it, and it'll tell them what's gonna happen in December. But I love going to the movies. I will spend my money on these movies. So when I have a high hope for you, and you just give me something that you just like, all right, well, forget it. Let's just Josh Wheaton it. That's what we're gonna use him as for. Let's just
that fits.
And I love Josh Wheaton. I'm not Ray Fisher. I've never met Josh.
Man.
I've never met Josh Wheaton. He's never directed me, so I don't know how he is as a person. But what we're going to say is when you just Josh Wheaton a project, right? And you don't, I feel like it's crazy that you don't have.
Technically, I guess you could say Ryan Johnson it.
I mean, I kind of like Josh Whedon, but you can say Ryan. Right. But because I want to take both like different franchises. But
you could Ryan and Whedon it.
Yeah, you can Ryan and Whedon. You know what I mean? You can either one. You know what I mean? Or you can Abrams and Feige it. I don't know. Like I don't know. We're creating stuff today. Right. But I just feel like you do not have faith in your fan base, right? And to me, that is such a slap in the face as a person who has, like, I went to go see Infinity War maybe 3 times in the theater and paying like regular price for it, right?
Right. That's not something you don't see that on matinee.
You see what I'm saying?
You seen that? You seen that with a good crowd.
I seen that. Not only that, I wanted to be in the D box, big screen, big sound. Like I paid money through 3 times. One was by myself. The other times with my brother and my mother, and I took them to go see it. I treated. You see what I'm saying? So like give us some credit, right? And know that like we might be mad that it's taking a minute, but we'll appreciate it in the end. Case in point, it took 14 years for me to get Incredibles 2. And when I finally got Incredibles 2, I was like, this is amazing.
Honestly, I was so scared I would never see that sequel. And the thing that pissed me off about that, and I'll stop so we can get on, but I'm like, ain't no way I should have a Monsters movie, a Monster sequel, a Finding Nemo sequel, 2 Cars sequels, and a Planes film before I got The Incredibles 2. I'm like, how? That's one of your best IPs. I'm like, how is The Incredibles not a weekly show on the Disney Network? I'm like, that's just instant money. It's superheroes even before you had Marvel. It's superheroes you owned.
But I'm not mad, right? Because, okay, listen, don't get me wrong. I was mad because I was like, yo, where my movie? Because the first one, solid film, right? I don't care if it's animation. Solid
my all-time favorite animated film. All animation. My favorite animated film.
Character development. You got the kids. You got the baby. You got the husband. You got the structure. You can kind of see what time frame it takes place in, even though they don't tell you what time frame. Just by the aesthetics, you can tell. And now I had to wait 14 years. And what y'all do, right? Y'all didn't time hop 5 years. Y'all was like, it take place right after the movie, right after the first. And I was like,
which ironically annoys me a little bit because I played the video game Rise of the Underminer, which does that. And this completely ignores the continuity of the video game I paid money for about 14 years ago. So thank you for completely making a video game that was good, completely useless right now. But I'm not mad at that.
It's fine. You'll get your Incredibles 2 in another 14 years. Don't worry about it. But that's what I'm saying though. I feel like waiting can pay off. Is what at the end of that big old long rant that I just did, waiting can pay off. Pixar was like, we trust our fan base to understand that yes, we had other things on the docket, but we also wanted to give them a very good film. They waited this long. We wanted to make this count. And boy, in my opinion, did they make it count?
The only time I can honestly think that didn't work, and in my opinion, I liked it, but for the masses, I guess it didn't, was Tron. That's the only time I can see where you waited that long and the fan base wanted it, and then you finally gave it to the fan base and it didn't do as well as you thought. I can't think of any other franchise that does that long that they come out for.
That's true though, but I feel like with Tron too, to me it's just like music, right? You always be like, man, what was my favorite artist from like where they at? If you don't keep up with what's going on right now, right? Because if we were no longer in a superhero type of world, I still feel like Incredibles 2 would have still kind of hit, but not as much as it did, right? Yeah. Because we were still in this superhero type of era, right? By the time Tron, they gave us the next one, it was just like, yo, glow sticks, I'm done. I'm done.
The people that loved it are like 60 years old now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. And it's people, the people that wanted it, it wasn't that many of them. Like they waited way too long for that. I would love to get another Tron film. To me, it's still the best film I've ever seen in 3D. That was during the heyday where I saw 3D, and that was the best film I saw 3D.
Because it's been so long, and the way people write and structure things have changed dramatically from since then. You just need to reboot that series.
And the thing is, that world to me it's still something you could do now. Like I said, it's the best 3D film I ever paid money for. Like I paid money to see The Green Hornet with Seth Rogen in 3D. I was upset about that.
I wouldn't have seen that in
Tron,
3D.
man, they got me.
I feel like Tron is made for 3D, right?
It was the thing is, I saw that before we had the Dolby Digital theaters. If
Yeah.
they ever re-release that, I am paying hard money to go see that in a Dolby Digital theater to hear
They're
that
not-
Daft Punk soundtrack. Yeah. Man, that would just be beautiful. But
the only movie, I think I might have said more than one, but the only one that's coming to mind right now that I've seen in 3D was Avatar.
Yeah, I actively avoided that film back then. Like, I love James Cameron, but I don't support some of his films because he's at the two highest grossing films of all time, and I hate both of them. I hate Titanic.
Why do you
the ending of the damn thing? You could have had the damn thing called Zeppelin, and it would have the same outcome. You knew what the. Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
But listen, everybody knew the whole point of Titanic really wasn't about the ship. I mean, it kind of was because we wanted to see how they would go about it. Because the time when that movie came out, nobody thought it was capable for him to even get that captured on screen. From one,
is the greatest.
But the whole point, he is. But the whole point of Titanic was the story underneath it. Because how many stories you hear about families? You rarely heard stories about the families of anybody that like survived that or passed away from that. And if you did, me personally, I ain't read nothing. I ain't seen nothing. I really didn't research it too. But the whole point of Titanic was the story.
More people could have survived if Rose would have got the hell over.
I mean, we could have took turns, but we're not gonna get into that because that could be a whole different podcast on its own. Honestly, I wouldn't mind doing that with you.
And she kept the damn diamond and threw it away. She's a selfish hag. Bill Pullman then damn sold his soul to the devil to pay for that shit.
Listen here, and even if you don't care about the film itself, that film gave us Kate Winslet. She's a phenomenal actress. It already told me that what I already knew is that Leonardo DiCaprio has been underappreciated for years.
Best actor in the world.
For years.
In the world.
And then on top of that, too, you introduced me to Billy Zane? You better quit playing with me.
I'll say this. I was on Billy Zane before that because I was one of the 5 people that actually went to the theater to see The Phantom. So I love me some Billy.
You better stop. Not only that, you have my girl, Maggie Smith, in there. Dame.
She's
Dame Maggie?
Like, she was 102 back then.
You see what I'm saying? Who, and this is getting all off the topic of like Star Wars Last Jedi, but I love me some Dame Maggie Smith because she was going through, I believe, cancer treatments on the set of Harry Potter.
Really?
Yes. And they were like, well, we can wait. And she was like, nope. And she was getting her treatments. She was like, let me just rest. She was getting her treatments on the set. That's dedication, baby. I see y'all better stop playing with my Maggie, huh?
And the thing is, I had no idea she was even in Harry Potter because I've never seen one of those films.
My God. What is this?
I know.
Okay, this is what we need to do. We need to do, when I learn how to do like the whole picture-in-picture type of thing, you know, when COVID kind of dies down, I could come to you, you come to me. It really don't matter. I need to do one of those because people been doing it. Like, my friend watches this for the first time. I got all 7 of them. You hear me? I got them. I got them all.
It just passed me over. Like, it just the whole thing. Like, I think I was just a little too old. Like, the first film came out, I was like 16, 17. And I'm like, I'm a little too old for this type of storytelling.
You are barely 2 years older than me.
It just never hit with me.
And I was like, oh, in it. I never read the books. I read the first book and was like, this is pretty great. I literally want the whole box set now because I don't really read name a thing. I mean, I'm not saying that I can't read. And everybody gonna be like, reading her thing. I prefer film. I'm a visual type of person. I prefer film. But the way your books get me is if I can see it when I read it. And if I can't see it, guess who putting it down in the corner, huh? That's me.
That's Harry Potter's on my list. It's after Breaking Bad and after Game of Thrones, but it's on my list.
Have you ever seen Game of Thrones?
I literally have watched the first 2 seasons 3 times, and I still can't get through it. It just loses me. And I hear it gets better, and I've actually done a really good job of avoiding spoilers for years. I've avoided spoilers.
I couldn't make it through the first episode of season 1.
First episode ends good. That's the thing that gets me. First episode ends good, and then it just
goes from physically get to it.
I've fallen asleep twice.
I fall asleep at the same. All I remember is snow and wolves and somebody picking up a wolf or something like that, and I'm out for the count. I cannot. And here's the thing, and it has everything I love. It's sci-fi, it's fantasy, it got dragons, it got strong women, even though sometimes I know they stupid because I've seen stuff. They got Jason Momoa.
I also hear they hang dong in that show too. So
and I appreciate that because you always getting tits and ass from women and you getting the butts of men. And I'm just like, don't get me wrong. I need to see the tip of something. I'll
say this. If you can get into Game of Thrones, if you get past season 1, if you can binge the season 1, I'll binge it with you, like we did with Community. I'll do that with you and try to get through it. My mom even watched Game of Thrones and is amazed that I'm not in the Game of Thrones. I'm like, I'll say it like this: The Walking Dead. I was late on The Walking Dead. I didn't get into The Walking Dead until season 5.
I started The Walking Dead at the beginning. Mind you, I might cut this from the video just to shorten it, but I don't really care.
You can have a behind the scenes.
Facts. But I loved The Walking Dead. But when it started to be, I can tell when you stop coming up with ideas, even though it's based off of a comic. I can tell when you start, and it's because of all my 30 years of watching, 30 plus years of watching television and movies and reading watching behind the scenes and commentary and all this type of stuff. When they started repeating stuff, and I was like, so they gonna get captured again? Okay. And then they gonna fight their way out again? Okay. And
they're gonna find a place.
And then they gonna find a place? Okay. And then somebody gonna come and try to take it? Okay. I mean, all right.
So the real villains are not the zombies or walkers, the other people. Okay. Wow.
All right.
Yeah. Ironically, I tried to get into Walking Dead. I missed the first season, and then that's when it hit. And then everybody's telling me, "Oh, you gotta watch the show. I didn't have AMC for a while, so I didn't get into it. Then I got AMC, and I didn't have AMC on demand, so I couldn't watch everything. From the beginning. So then they started having like a New Year's Day marathon of The Walking Dead, everything up until now. I set my DVR to record it. My DVR fucked me and didn't start recording until episode 5 of season 1. I'm like, fuck it, this ain't for me. Another one comes up. I try to set it. DVR fucks me again. Didn't do it correctly. So I'm like, I see another New Year's Day. This is now like 4 years in a row. New Year's Day marathon. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this my damn self. I went and did for the first 4 seasons, all like 50 episodes almost, went and hit record on each one of them.
One of them, right.
And then I finally got into The Walking Dead before the season 5 premiere. Fell in love with it. I ain't gonna hold you up. I actually had tears in my eyes when Beth died. I was a Beth fan. I didn't appreciate the way they did her. That hurt. Then I get into season 5, my favorite season actually. Love it. Season 6 comes. They do the Glenn fake out. That's where they lost me.
Yeah.
That's where they lost me.
They lost. In all honesty, I would probably watch. No, I take it back. Because I wasn't being honest at all, even though I said it in all honesty. Because when I thought about it, I was like, I'm lying right now in this moment. I was going to say, in all honesty, I would probably have to watch it all over again to figure out where I left off at.
Don't do that to yourself.
Because I was deep in. Like I'm telling you, I was a person who was watching the episode and then watching Talking Dead behind. Like I was one of those people. Like I was keeping up with it, and
that's ironically where I knew the vet Nicole Brown from.
See, you got your feelings hurt out here. And I was keeping up with it, and it was. I think the last thing I remember. I don't even remember. The last thing I remember clearly is Beth's death, right? Because it came, because I thought she was home free. Her sister was there, everything was working out, and old girl, just like a cop, oops, and killed her, right? Messed me up. And then I remember kind of watching after that, but I think the last thing that there's a vision in my face. In my face, there's a vision in my brain of the core ones being locked in like a
Terminus.
Is that Terminus? Being
Yeah, where they get locked
in a
like a train car.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
It ends with them not knowing who's about to open it up, and then I was kind of like, I'm good. I just stopped.
From there up until season 6, when they do the Glenn fake out, is the best of the Walking Dead, I think, because Rick was at his rickest. Everybody was at their best right there, and then
I already know what happens to people. I know how Glenn dies. I know that my son.
I actually had a party for that. I actually had a Walking Dead season 7 premiere party, and when that happened, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna watch this show no more. And it was after that. I think I only watched about 6 episodes of season 7. Got caught up on season 7 right before season 8, and I think I watched like the first 2 episodes of season 8, and I saw where it was going. I'm like, oh, y'all just stringing this shit along. I'm good. And I haven't watched episodes since. I've watched recaps of it to find out what happens at the end of the season. And I'm glad I haven't wasted my time, because to see some of the shit they've done to where they've just extended episodes and extended arcs well beyond what they needed to be. And
I'm good. I watched clips. I watched Daryl and Carol reuniting. I didn't watch the episodes. I just watched like clips to see like where they were going. I watched where Rick got separated and he heard like the White Walkers, I guess you can call them or whatever, and they were like talking. They're like the Whispers or whatever. So they're like walkers that can talk, and he's like, what the fuck? And then he gets choppered out. I've seen that Judith grew up to be a bad bitch. You hear me?
They did an Avengers. They did a time skip.
Yeah, they did a time skip. Yeah.
And the thing that kills me about that is I'm like, okay, we were already with you on the show.
Yeah.
Just do this in the second episode and send it to me so I can send this shit out.
Sorry about it. I know I'm gonna cut it in half. Well, in third, it's gonna be a 2-parter, and then it's gonna be.
But we were already with you in the fact that, okay, the zombie apocalypse happened. For some reason, Rick was left in the hospital by himself and survived, even though his IV would have completely gone after a couple hours, and he had an open wound in him and didn't die or lose his arm then. Yep. Okay, that's cool. So the show takes place really 6 months after that, right? So you left him in the hospital room. He somehow survived.
Yep.
All right, cool. Then you go through the series. Even though we can see Chandler grow up from a little ugly-ass 10-year-old kid to a strapping 18-year-old young man with a beautiful mane of hair. Even though in continuity, this is really only about maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
You give a pass because people have growth spurts. You kind of you suspend belief.
But then you jump ahead about 5 to 6 years after that. So really, by their timeline, they should be around 2017, really. How in the hell are walkers still going around?
Not even that.
When you show them actively decaying over the time of the series from the season episode.
Not even that. How are they evolving? Right?
How are they a threat? They are literally, some of these bodies are almost 8 years old, just walking around, and you see some of them don't even have jaws. They're just skeletons.
So my whole thing is like how haven't they died out? 2, how are they continuing to evolve? And 3, how are they still alive simply because the world's been around long enough to hopefully adapt? But we are in a coronavirus ourselves, and people still want to live life the way that they want to live life. So part of me feels like them walkers is getting food because people want to be people. So,
and the last thing I'll say, one of the biggest things that pisses me off, how the hell y'all still got gasoline? They still driving cars and shit.
Honestly,
and I'm like, all right, hell, you still drive cars this far along? Like, come on now. And then they had an episode, I think it was like season 5 or 6, where somebody opened up like a canned good, and I'm like, I know that shit's expired. Like, come on. You have to garden, but don't be still telling me you're still eating shit out of can. Don't tell me you're still eating canned goods and driving cars. All right.
I
But no,
I
the
told
show
you,
the show's falling off a cliff too. Looking at the ratings too,
I
and
feel
I
like
never even watched Fear the Walking Dead either.
I
I
feel
didn't even
like
watch that.
I didn't even watch. I didn't even. What was my point of that? I was like,
I fell asleep. I fell asleep on the pilot episode twice. Your Game of Thrones. I fell asleep on the same episode, different times, twice each.
I didn't feel compelled to watch Fear the Walking Dead because I felt like this wasn't for. I don't need a prequel to this world. If you're not gonna
And
tell
then it
me
doesn't even explain it well.
that's what I'm saying. So if you're not even gonna tell me in the main world, in the main film, the main TV show, where this virus came from, how it spread, and we're like in season what, and we
10.
still don't know.
We're in season 10, and the only thing we know is from one episode in the season 1 finale, and that's all they implemented.
We on the Fran season, and I still don't know. I still don't know where this virus came from. I still don't know how these things are evolving. You ain't give me no filler episode to just give me a background on all this episode, because you easily could have done that somewhere within these seasons.
And one thing The Walking Dead has done is a filler episode. They have done filler and bottle episodes more than any other TV show I've ever heard.
One thing I hate, that's the one thing I don't, that's the thing about anime that I don't like, right? Is filler episodes. Because I feel like I can just wait for the next episode. Like, just don't because I feel like the filler doesn't add anything to the storyline or the arc that I'm in right now. And then it's always goofy, and it's like, this is what I signed up for. This is one of my
issues with anime.
This is not what I signed up for. And I got a TV show that I love. Like, I have an anime called Bleach, right? That I love Bleach. And they have beautiful arcs, right? They have beautiful like arcs that like take you be like, oh snap, what's gonna happen next? This person and leveled up and they done did this and showed this power and they got this, and you feeling good, and then it be like it ends on a cliffhanger, and then the next episode, these niggas out eating at a restaurant, and I don't give a fuck. I'm not here for it. I don't care. I don't care. But okay. Because I'm a figure out a way to splice this. So I have an editing thing somewhere.
Okay.
I'm on my Mac right now, so my Mac should automatically have a little splicer thingy. Mm-hmm. Also, I think I figured out how to do the watch the video thing, because I can screen share on this, and I should be able to screen share like and watch something, like if I open up Netflix, something like that. So I think I figured that out. So I'm kind of proud of myself.
Nice. All right.
But we'll see. I got to put it in motion because I could probably fuck it up. Do you mind if I put this video on YouTube, or would you just prefer me to just use the audio on my podcast?
Go ahead. Feel free.
Sweetness. Okay, to sum up, Sir Kayos hates Star Wars Last Jedi.
Yeah, from seeing every Star Wars film minus Solo, which there's no point in me watching that.
I have it in there. We'll continue.
Yeah. If I'm ranking every Star Wars film, that one will be dead last.
Wow. Okay.
Least amount of redeeming qualities.
How many froze? Since you're on my podcast, how many froze would you give Star Wars Last Jedi?
A bald fade. I'm gonna give it the DMX Stone Cold Steve Austin special. You hear me?
Okay.
They don't even get a Caesar. They don't even get a Caesar. They don't even get the 2001, 2002 Chris Webber or the Jason Kidd special. They don't get that shit.
Oh, I love me some Jason Kidd. Don't do that. Well, as a person who I do have my issues with Star Wars Last Jedi. I said some of them in this, but remember, I will have my own like separate video where I kind of go into the characters and connections and things like that a little more in depth. But I just wanted to hear Kayos's, because we were talking about this and he really wanted to have this conversation and I really wanted to have it too.
Felt good to get some of this out.
Let's purge
therapeutic.
Let's purge ourselves of these negative feelings for films and television. We can do this. But for me, for The Last Jedi, which you know, I'm gonna try to hopefully I remember this from when I do the other one. I give this film like 2.5 froze. If I'm gonna give it about 2.5. It's not my favorite Star Wars film. I really
God, I hope so.
You're gonna reevaluate like everything you felt about me. Like, you know what? I thought she was cool, but
you know what? We'll call you about the next time
I know,
recording
right?
the podcast.
Like, y'all don't even comment in the group message no more. Y'all just left me off. Like, I just pre all of that. So I'm just like, so we quiet today, y'all? What's up? Like, y'all not talking to me that much. I give it about 2. I give it 2.5 froze. I really do. I really, really do. Simply because, like I said, I'm a big fan of character development. And I feel like this film lacked it. And I felt like it would have been a service to the next film if you would have gave me that character development. Because you tried to shove it all in Rise of Skywalker and then add on more characters, which...
Right. I mean, hell, they introduced, at least 2 characters. One dies, and then the other one literally is only in Rise of Skywalker for 40 seconds.
Yeah. And I'm supposed to care that her father is Billy D. Williams? I don't care.
Oh, shit. Oh, make it 3 characters. I was talking about Rose. Rose.
Honestly, and I'm going to be... Listen, and I know people... I already know that she was getting, people were hating on her character. I
tweeted her saying, apologizing for everything she was going through. I don't know if she ever saw it, but if she ever hears it, I am so sorry that she went through that.
People were this is what I need people to realize. Star Wars ain't real. Huh? Right?
She's a good actor too. She's a good
actress. I'm not even knocking that. But what I really wanted her character. I didn't... And this is gonna sound so bad because like I love having my minorities and people of different races. Because all these films have been so white, so Caucasian, and
whole galaxy,
is just all white people. Ain't no Negroes, ain't no Asians, ain't no Hispanic. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation. Which, don't get me wrong, I love my Star Wars and I get it during that certain time, whatever. But Rose could have died in Star Wars: The Last Jedi for me.
Would have gave her something. It would have gave her something to do.
Because she was a good catalyst to like get Finn to realize like, yo, my man's like, it's a lot of stuff going on out here. It's a lot of you leaving, even though he was leaving for good reasons because he wanted to find Rey, right? That's his girl. He want his friend. He wanted to find her. I get her, but I tell people this all the time. If you would have took Rose out and tweak some stuff, she really wasn't needed in this film.
Nope. And that's honestly, the thing. You could have made a lot of fans happy by killing her character off, and then instead you just do nothing with her.
But honestly, you could have killed her in a way that probably would have made fans not treat the actress Rosemary like this.
Hell, they did. They could have did her in Rise of Skywalker like they did Lois Lane in Superman 3. Hey guys, I'm on the case. See ya.
Exactly. Like,
what the hell is the point of even having the character in there?
There's no
gonna write them out.
I would have preferred it for when I would have, instead of her like stopping Finn from doing what he was about to do, and then that awkward kiss. But I guess this legacy of Star Wars is very into awkward kisses. Man. They love their awkward kisses in this film.
That is weird, dude. Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, they like their awkward. They saw the Luke and Leia thing and was like, we can do better. We can.
Luke and Leia had more passion.
You hear me? Listen, and so because I feel like you could have made it so she sacrificed herself for Finn, because obviously she got feelings at the end of that thing. She was like, we win this with not hate but with love. So obviously you kind of telling him that you love him, or you feeling some type of love for him. She should have died for him.
And he's looking at you like,
baby girl.
She look. Do you know my phone number just in case?
In case what?
No, I said no. He's looking at her like, I hope you don't know my phone. No, yeah, he's like, I hope you don't know my phone number.
Like, I mean, he was kind of looking at her like, we just met.
Right.
Oh.
Ooh,
That was like that
man.
conversation me and you had earlier before the cameras, before I
Right, like
it's like
that's a bit quick.
That's a deep cut, bro. You real close right now. That's a deep cut. But I gave it like 2.5. Like I said, character development is big for me, right? Because anybody can do an explosion well. We're in a different universe. The colors are beautiful. The creatures are great. I'm always gonna love that. I'm always gonna be like, this is a different world, a different atmosphere. But if your characters don't grow, even though they grew towards the end, like Poe grew up to realize that, like, yo, this is the time to leave, not the time to fight.
Right.
Finn grew up to be like, yo, I'm not running this time. We about to fight. Right? So like it was like the characters kind of switched, right? So like people grew up. I'm not running no more. I'm in this. The people I love is doing this. I'm in this. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because you're not giving me more Kylo. You're not giving me why. What was his? Because I really want to know, what was his family dynamic like?
The thing gets me is like that. Who the hell are the Knights of Ren? Like how did he become the leader?
He trained them. Like what happened?
Like
did
there's
Snoke
so
give him
much...
these people, or did Palpatine just send people his way without him even knowing? Because obviously he was pulling strings since the beginning in the background.
It was so many questions. That's the thing. It's just so many questions.
Very lost.
Very.
It's very lost.
Well, it proved one thing: how to not do $1 billion franchise.
It's very true. It's giving me the lessons that I need. So when I have my own franchise, I know what to know.
I'm learning from all these mistakes. Thank you, Kathleen Kennedy.
Thank you very much. Yes. But I feel like when you have somebody, and I don't know her from a can of paint, you know what I'm saying? I don't know her. I probably don't even know her like I know the back of my hand. I barely know the back of my hand. You understand me? But I feel like you have to care about what you're leading. Right? You have to want it to be great, right? You have to want it. Okay, Disney Plus has a documentary on how they made Frozen 2. Right? And I want to say she's the creative director of Disney now. Her name is Jennifer Lee, I believe. She's the creative director of Disney. And not only that, she's the original writer of the first Frozen, so she came back for the second Frozen with her writing partner and all that kind of stuff. Watch how it's like 6 episodes, right? To watch how much she cares not only for this movie, but for the individual characters, how real they feel to her, how this world feels. To see that, it's no wonder Frozen 2 is as great. I enjoyed Frozen 2 way better than I enjoyed Frozen 1. And I got a lot of people that say Frozen 2 is trash. I've read it about, I'm like,
I still haven't watched it because I'm like, those films, those aren't my kind of films. I'm like,
crazy.
So. I saw the first one, and even watching the first one, I didn't like a lot of the characters. I'm like, just tell her you got ice powers, solve a lot of that shit. I'm like, okay, you're controlling the ice. Anyway, Frozen to me, I'm like, I think I was a little too old for Frozen because I'm picking holes and like, why don't you just tell her you got ice powers?
You can listen to my podcast on the holes that I picked in that first film. You hear me? I have
and that's the thing. And it's not like I can't enjoy them because, like I said, The Incredibles. I love The Incredibles. Love The Incredibles too. Yes, it did have a villain problem, but I mean, it still was a damn good sequel. It was a good sequel coming after the first one. I'm gonna watch Onward. So I can enjoy animated series just like that one too. I'm watching that after I watch it, so I might do that in the next day or two. I'm probably gonna watch it because I keep seeing it's the only other thing that's suggested on Disney Plus is Onward, and I only go on there for The Simpsons.
Which is dumb because we just told you about so much stuff you can watch on Disney Plus. You like, I didn't know they had that. Maybe I should research a little more.
I can't do that, but yeah, I would do that.
But thank you, because I could talk to you all day because we actually have very similar brains in how we kind of.
You
know what I mean? We are. And we have very similar. So I could talk to you all day, but we will have to do this again.
Of course.
Especially depending on how it turns out, because if it turns out like trash, we'll probably just wait for Mark. No, I'm saying. Because I'm doing this with myself. I'm winging it. I'm out
Right.
there just trying to do it.
Right.
But thank you for joining me, Kayos.
No
I
problem.
appreciate it.
Thank
Tell the
you.
people where they can find you again. Just throw out your socials.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Team Kayos. That's Kayos. You can find me on Wakinda Podcast Is This on Facebook and the Instagram page, Wakinda Podcast Is This. You can also find me in the Reality Era news page on Facebook. And if you're into wrestling and pro combat sports, you can also find my other podcast I'm affiliated with, which is Knockouts and Three Counts. And thank you so much for having me. I'm truly blessed to be a guest. You were a podcaster even before I had the Wakanda show, so it was good to finally do a show with you. We have to do a Friends themed episode also.
Oh my God, you do
Friends and Charmed. Friends and Charmed.
Oh my! You just listen here. I just got the shivers when you said that.
I've been known to do that to people.
You know what? I don't have time for you. Okay, I don't have time.
title of my 2020 sex tape.
I don't have time for you. Yes, time. My title of my sex tape. Don't have time for you. But again, thank you for joining me. You are honestly the first guest. Like.
You never forget your first.
You never forget your first. And it was oh so good. We gotta do it again. But you are the first guest on my podcast. Like I've been on somebody else's, I've been on other people's, and I put it on my podcast. I haven't had anybody actually come to mine. So thank you for
I'm glad about that. And the whole reason I know we're going way long, but the reason why we brought you into ours is because I've been a fan of yours for quite some time. And I mentioned to Mark, like, you know what, maybe we should bring some other people in. And he honestly said, he's like, hey, have you ever heard of BlackGirlMarvel? I'm like, yeah, we go on a date. I'm familiar with her work. He's like, you want to bring her on? I'm like, that's the person I would want to bring on.
You guys, this is history that I need to know, so I won't treat you bad anymore. No,
you were the other person that we wanted to bring into to the podcast with us.
That feels great. That feels good. Because you never know like what your stuff is, or if anybody's even paying attention, or if anybody's even watching or listening. So I appreciate that. I really do.
I truly appreciate it, and I love your work because like you said, we do have very similar taste in film and the way we look at film and look at nerd culture. But I love getting your opinion because I honestly like to think I'm open-minded. I try to be as open-minded as possible. Being a person of color, I cannot be open-minded in my opinion. But there still is a whole different side of it that I don't look at, which being a female. And there are things that you do point out and stuff like, you know what? I didn't honestly think about that way. And I honestly always appreciate your input and your insight on it.
Same to you, though, because there are times where I'm like, I can look at it like, I try to be as, like you said, open-minded, but I also try to look at angles. And I try to explain to people, like, I have 3 brothers, right? So I honestly get where you're coming from. Like, I get where you're coming from. But what about this? And then you'll answer it, but A, B, C, D. And I'm like, I don't want to agree, but I'm gonna have to agree.
I've read that a lot.
That's when you just gotta like bite the bullet. But I will say I got you on that podcast about Stephanie McMahon, and I told you I have to bring that up. I got you on that podcast. I was like, bro, yes, she has. I've seen multiple times where you was like, she's never been touched.
I had no idea that I said that either, and I'm like, how did I miss that? And I'm not even going to go into it, but I'm making sure I am never answering any fan questions about the podcast in that form again. What I said is what I said, and that's what I said.
Nope, no taking it back.
No take back.
That's what you said. But again, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody, this has been BlackGirlMarvel. If you haven't followed, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so that you know if I got new content coming out. Make sure you follow me on all podcast forms at BlackGirlMarvel, all one word. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that jazz. You can request if you would like. I might not do everything, but I'll do everything I can. Especially if I've seen it before, because I'm a nerd. I've seen a lot. So thank you again for joining me and Kayos. And this might be like 3-parters. I don't. This might be a 3-part.
And I am subscribed to.
Yeah,
I've been a subscriber. Granted, I don't hit the bell icon for nobody though, but I am a subscriber.
I hit it for a few people, but I appreciate that though. So yeah. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Again, like I said, this is gonna be like a 3-parter, but stay classy. It's your girl.